read the news publications, because every side in journalism wants you to be angry, fearful, resentful, or something. They have a financial interest in it. More clicks, more money. So I remember to myself, whenever I reach something that's trying to activate one side or the other, they have an incentive for you to think a certain way. So that's why I keep my own program, which is, if I read the New York Times, I read the Wall Street Journal. If I read the New Republic, I read the Weekly Standard. I always make sure to read both sides. Now, as a political centrist, this means that on some things I'm on the left, on some things I'm more to the right. So I don't have a right-left constant bias. I don't have allegiance to either party. I try to figure things out on the issues, and I've made my preferences known over and over again, how I stand on many things. But I'm just going to recommend that to you as a thought. Now, why do I recommend this to you as a thought? Here's my premise. It is not healthy for us to walk around with anger, fear, and resentment. It's not a healthy state of mind. I'm not saying get over it. I'm saying eventually. It's not healthy for your body, not healthy for your relationships. It's not healthy for the body politic if people walk around angry, resentful, and fearful. Now, people say to me, but there are rational reasons to be fearful. Many people who did not vote for Trump, there are rational reasons to be fearful. Here's what I would say. And folks, I say this to people in my counseling practice. Anxiety is free-floating fear that something bad's going to happen. You can't name exactly what it is, but you have a sense of dread. Fear is you're afraid of a specific thing about to happen. And then here's what I recommend to people in my practice. And people have come up to me in services, in the parking lot, at Shiva Minions, just about everywhere I go, people come up to me and said, how do I get over this fear? Now, that's the question I've been asked, so that's the question I'm going to share with you. I'm not going to tell you what to think, but I do believe, and I think our tradition supports this, walking around in anger, fear, and resentment is not healthy for you or other people. That's number one. Number two, hating other people is not good. So those who actually feel deep hatred in your heart, right, it says in the Torah, do not hate your brother in your heart. You can't get a more clear commandment than that. If you're carrying around hatred, it's against Jewish ethics. Certainly it's against Jewish ethics ever to shame anyone in public. That is probably one of our most clear ethical laws. Never shame another person in public. And that includes calling people names, either in private or in public. That's an unambiguous Jewish ethic. So if our ethics are reduce fear, reduce anger, reduce resentment as much as is rationally possible in the circumstances, do not hate your fellow in your heart, never call anybody names in public or private. That's what Judaism has to say. I don't think Judaism tells you exactly how to vote on policy issues. I've shared with you that as a person, I've shared this. I'm not supposed to share with you how I vote, but I will say that I think Trump is a disgusting human being. Okay? He said disgusting things. Now, there are people that said, well, I voted for him in spite of that. It doesn't appear that many people voted for him because of that, but most voted for him who people they entered in spite of it. So I'm not going to hate those people. Anybody who voted for someone because they're a racist or because they want to take a few acts of people, of Muslims, for example, and apply it to another class of people, okay, that's not good Jewish ethics, to take the behavior of a few and apply it to a group. That's just not what we do. Right? So if anybody said, I'm voting for hatred, well, then I am upset with that person, but I'm going to try not to hate the person. Now, why do we try not to hate the person? Here's one thing I've also learned in interpersonal relationships. The more you criticize somebody, the more you shame them, the more entrenched they get in their opinion. The more entrenched they get. Criticism rarely changes a person. Criticism usually entrenches a person. In fact, criticism will often take a person who's undecided and make them decide against you because they resent your name-calling other people. It's a funny thing about criticism, anger, and shaming people. It entrenches people, does not dissuade them. It certainly empowers the choir of one's group. But for many people not decided, the shamer, the criticizer, is evidence of the lack of goodness of that point of view for a person undecided. So I don't think hatred and shaming actually works for anybody, no matter what side you're on. Number one, it's against Jewish law. And number two, it's not even productive.
Sing shalom, sing shalom, sing shalom tova uveracha. Sing shalom, sing shalom, sing shalom tova uveracha. Ay 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 ay. Ay, 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 ay. Sing, shalom, sing.